Our movie kicks off with a simple guy working as an ice cream truck driver in Ohio. And his life is, let's just say, he's just scraping by. You get this vibe that he's bored, tired, and feels totally lost, especially since he's not making much money. Then, one day, he makes a strange decision. He decides to go audition for a famous game show called Press Your Luck, which basically means try your luck. But when he gets there, he discovers a surprise. The audition isn't for him at all. The spot is reserved for someone else named Travis Dan. But since Travis, the guy who was supposed to show up, is running late or just doesn't show, this guy decides to live by the motto, opportunity only knocks once. And just like that, he steps in to take Travis's spot. Inside the audition, he starts talking in front of the show's panel, executive producer Bill Carruthers and contestant coordinator Chuck. They ask him to introduce himself on camera. So this guy tells them about himself, his job, and his simple life, and how he's just trying to find one chance to change his life. At first, they find him a bit odd, but his manner and authenticity win them over. Specifically, Bill Carruthers. He feels that this is the working-class hero, the kind of story that people love to root for. But unfortunately, they find out that this Travis is an imposter, that he's not the real contestant, and that he snuck in replacing someone else, stealing his name to register for the show. This, of course, makes them furious, and they reject him from the program. The man apologizes, telling them he didn't mean to cause any trouble, and that it was just his dream to be on the show someday because it's his favorite program, one he watches every single day with his wife and daughter. Despite this, they tell him there's no spot for him now after what he did and that maybe he can try again later. Better luck next time, maybe. So the man leaves, looking devastated, and goes back to his life of servitude selling ice cream from his truck, which barely keeps him afloat. But suddenly, Bill changes his mind at the last second. He goes out to find him at his ice cream truck and tells him, "Wait, come back for the next episode. We'll give you a shot, all right? We'll let you try. But first, what's your real name?" The man smiles and introduces himself. His real name is Michael Larson. Bill schedules him for tomorrow morning to be on the show. Afterward, Michael goes to the nearest clothing store and buys a very sharp suit for the price of just $8. And apparently he didn't have enough money to buy pants because he wears the jacket with shorts. He takes it home and does a rehearsal in front of the mirror, checking if he looks sharp or ridiculous. The very next day, Michael goes to the show. The episode begins and we hear the host's voice introducing the contestants, presenting Michael to everyone who is coming all the way from Ohio. The audience applauds. We see Michael's face, a mix of nerves and excitement. We also see Bill Carruthers watching from backstage, and it's clear he's excited to see what this underdog is going to do. But Michael isn't the only competitor, of course. There's also another contestant with him named Ed, a very confident guy who was a previous champion in past episodes, so this isn't his first time. And there's a third contestant with them named Jenny, who works as a dentist, and she's very pleasant and bubbly, always smiling. The game starts with a few trivia questions first. Unfortunately, Michael answers wrong and seems to lack confidence. This is not a promising start, as Michael gives us a bad first impression. You get the feeling he's the impulsive type who will lose quickly. But he manages to save himself on the next question and gets it right. When they get to the second round, which consists of a giant board filled with cash and prizes, all he has to do is press the buzzer in front of him at the right moment. If he's lucky, he wins money. But if his luck is bad, with just one press, he could lose all the money he's collected and go back to zero thanks to a whammy card that could pop up at any moment. At this moment, Michael focuses intently on the board, his eyes tracking the lights like a radar. He stops the buzzer at the perfect time and wins $2,000. Now, part of the rules in this round is that he has the complete freedom to choose. Either keep pressing the buzzer and try his random luck, or pass his turn to the next contestant. But Michael holds on to his turn with his bare hands, feeling like this is his big break. So he tries again, pressing the buzzer, and manages to win another $1,005. His eyes light up, and his excitement grows more and more, and he decides to try his luck a third time. But unfortunately, luck isn't on his side this time. He hits the whammy card, which makes him lose all the money he'd won, and he's back to zero again. Michael is devastated after his face was so full of excitement. He's the only one among the contestants to his right and left with a score of 0. Well, each of them has managed to win about $4,000. The host calls for a commercial break, exactly 90 seconds long.
During these 90 seconds, Michael goes out to see a production assistant named Sylvia. She's a kind person and sympathizes with him. Michael tells her that today is his only daughter's birthday, and because of the show, he got swept up and totally forgot about her, and he wasn't able to call her. He asks her if he can just call her quickly so she won't be upset. But Sylvia tells him that unfortunately phone calls are forbidden here and she can't help him. Michael begs her to find a solution, asking her to put herself in his daughter's shoes and imagine how happy she'd be if her dad remembered her on a day like this, even though he's under pressure. It's clear Sylvia really wants to help him, but her hands are tied. However, on the sly, under the table, she lets him use the phone quickly before anyone sees. But he doesn't get to say anything because the break is over. I mean, it was only 90 seconds.
He returns to his seat on the show with the other contestants, and Michael tries to focus all his concentration on the game to make up for his loss. And it works. He starts winning 4,000, then another, then a third. His score starts to multiply, and Michael is determined to keep going and not pass his turn, even though he'll be crushed if he loses all the money he's won. But he manages to reach an amount that has never been reached before in the show's history, nor has any contestant ever reached it, $19,000. Because of this, the show's producers start to worry, because, astoundingly, he just keeps winning without anyone stopping him, and they have no idea how high he plans to go. At this rate, their show is going bankrupt. Suddenly, everyone in the studio starts to feel that something very strange is happening. The man is playing like a pro, as if he knows exactly when to press the button. Not even once does he land on the card that makes people lose all their money. How is this possible? The host himself is lost and can't find an explanation for what's happening, but he tries to ease the tension with laughter, though it's obvious he's stunned. And of course, the audience loves the chaos, so they keep clapping and cheering as if he's going to give them a cut.
But backstage, the situation is completely different. The producers, especially Bill and Chuck, start looking at each other in silence, genuine panic on their faces. They keep saying to each other, "If he keeps this up, we're going to declare bankruptcy today." Bill warns everyone working with him that no one is to contact a person named Kaufman. This Kaufman is a high-level executive in the network's compliance or standards and practices department, which oversees the show. We don't know why Bill didn't want him to know anything, but it's clear he was afraid for his show, fearing a scandal that could destroy it. When it's time for another break, the makeup artists go to touch up the contestants so they look good for filming. Michael tells them that everyone is invited out on his tab after the show. It seems he was trying to charm them, but the women tell him their men are the jealous type and wouldn't approve of something like that. Meanwhile, Bill is about to completely lose his mind over Michael's actions. He still can't comprehend how he keeps winning like this without a single loss. He tells the team working with him at the network that he feels Michael is, God forbid, cheating. There's just no other explanation. Right after that, the break ends. The host and audience welcome everyone back again, and the host tells a lame joke, which I really don't need to repeat, and it makes the audience laugh and get excited. The host keeps asking Michael if he's sure about his decision to continue the round, trying to scare him by saying that in one moment, everything he's built could come crashing down. He suggests it would be better to end his round with dignity and kiss his ill-gotten money goodbye. Michael thinks for a second, but then says he doesn't want to pass and that he's going to keep going. We don't know if he'll end up regretting this greed and overenthusiasm, because a big win means a big risk of loss, or if he'll actually manage to win and become the first contestant in the show's history to win such a huge amount of money without any losses. This is when Bill calls Chuck and tells him, "Find out what this kid's story is. What's his deal exactly?" Chuck replies, "Consider it done, boss." Immediately, Chuck leaves the network and heads over to Michael's ice cream truck, hoping he can dig up some dirt on him. But security over there asks him what he's doing standing around, so Chuck leaves. Somehow, he manages to get his hands on some records Michael had been keeping. He watches a video of a cute little girl holding an ice cream, and her mother also appears in the video. It's clear this is Michael's wife and daughter. Chuck stops that tape and pops in the next one, and that's when he finds tons of recordings of previous episodes of the show, of all the contestants. Michael wasn't just watching them, he was studying them. And this is where Chuck makes the critical discovery. Michael's eyes are moving in a specific pattern along with the board he's playing on, as if he has the sequence memorized. Even though the board moves randomly, it's not just one pattern. There are 5 patterns. But Michael's intelligence allowed him to memorize all 5 patterns, enabling him to press the button at the precise moment to win more money. This is why he hasn't lost a single time, because he literally memorized the game. And that time he lost at the beginning of the game, it was probably a decoy, just to throw people off so no one would catch on or think he was a cheater. When Chuck connects all the dots, he feels like he's cracked the code, that he's exposed Michael's trick and his cheating of the show and the audience. He immediately goes to Bill to explain what he found out about Michael. Bill feels like he's been vindicated, because Michael, thankfully, turned out to be a cheater, so he won't get a dime from them. He tells Chuck, "I could kiss your forehead for that brilliant mind of yours."
When the show wraps, Michael goes to use the private phone at the network and calls his wife, Patricia, to wish his daughter a happy birthday. But it's clear Patricia is giving him the cold shoulder, and that there are problems between them, to the point where she doesn't even want him to talk to them or wish his daughter well. But Michael tries to win her over, telling her he's working on a killer deal that will pull them out of the poverty they're in, allowing them to finally breathe and do whatever they want. Patricia decides to soften up and lets him talk to his daughter, Susie. Michael is overjoyed and wishes her a happy birthday. Susie tells him she misses him so much and that she wants to see him, and also that when he comes back, she'll save him a big piece of her birthday cake. She gives the phone back to her mom to talk to Michael, but he doesn't get to say anything because he's startled when he sees someone in a cartoon mascot costume next to him, and he hangs up on his wife. The show starts up again, and we see a woman named Arnie who works at the network. She's on Michael's side. She tries to convince Bill and the directors that even if Michael memorized the patterns, that doesn't mean he's a cheater, and they can't cheat him out of his money because he's won a significant amount. She goes to call Kaufman, telling them, "This has gone on long enough. He needs to know everything." But Bill snatches the phone from her and warns her not to call Kaufman or even mention his name. He tells her they don't want any trouble until they figure out what to do about this mess they're in. Arnie is clearly furious with Bill and his behavior. She asks him permission to go to the bathroom, if His Majesty doesn't mind, of course. Suddenly, Bill and Chuck decide to let Michael continue playing. It appears they've hatched a devious plan. When the show restarts, Michael gets a card that says he must play one round on behalf of a person that the show chooses. The name is written on the paper in front of Michael. When he opens it, he finds the name Lyle Roberts. Michael's entire expression changes and he looks visibly upset. The host asks him, "Who's Lyle? And what's his connection to you?" He just says the person is from Ohio, too. The host keeps pressing him about his relationship with this person, but Michael doesn't answer and just stays silent. Ed saves him, telling the host that Ohio isn't exactly a tiny town, so it's not like they're guaranteed to know each other. It's Michael's turn again to play the next round, but he finds the camera flash shining right in his eyes with an intensely bright light, so bright that he can't see anything to play the game. And of course, this is a deliberate move by the show's producers to distract Michael and make him lose, forcing his hand. But Arnie feels Bill has gone too far this time, and she brings Kaufman himself to see the farce that's unfolding. Kaufman immediately tears into Bill, telling him what's happening on the show is a joke, because it's impossible for a contestant to win this much without a single loss. He tells him there must be a flaw in the game, and that he, Michael, discovered it himself, which is why he's winning nonstop. He tells him he knows the reason for all of this. It's because Bill didn't even bother to create more patterns for the round, and that a total of only 5 patterns is very easy for anyone to memorize and win. And when that happens, they all go down in flames, just like what's happening now, thanks to Bill, God bless him. Bill argues that his game is perfectly fine and that's not the problem. But Kaufman cuts him off and says, "I don't know what to tell you. Because of Michael, a lot of people are going to get hurt." He asks who allowed him in here in the first place. Bill gets nervous and swallows hard because he was the one who let him in. But he lies and says, "It was Chuck. That dog, he did it, I swear." Kaufman demands that Chuck be brought in so he can understand from him personally. During the break, Ed senses that Michael is acting strange and is upset, so he asks him what's wrong. Michael tells him that what's happening is intentional, not a coincidence, and that the one behind it is Lyle Roberts. Ed asks, "Who is that?" Michael tells him he's someone who is very cruel to him. But Ed tells him that surely this is all just a coincidence and he's just imagining things. Nobody is targeting him. But Michael insists, impossible. Ed tells him to take a deep breath and not think about anything that's bothering him. Michael says he'll take his advice and step outside for some fresh air.
But the truth is, Michael is going out to use the phone, and Chuck knows this. He's anticipated it and removed the phone so no one can use it. Chuck then tries to guilt-trip Michael, asking him if he's satisfied with what he's doing by cheating, and will he be happy if his daughter finds out the truth about him and what he's doing. He asks him who he was sneaking off to call between every round, but Michael doesn't answer him. He decides to leave the network and run straight to his ice cream truck to see if the show's recordings are still in their place. He understood from Chuck's words that he knew about the videotapes and that Chuck had exposed his secret. That's when he discovers they've really been taken. He decides to go complain to security and inform them that someone broke into his truck and stole his private property. But the security guard tells him that his shift just started a little while ago, and he wasn't the one monitoring the area this morning. Michael gets extremely upset and agitated, not knowing what to do or what his fate will be. But he decides to run back to the network, only, strangely, he walks onto a completely different show. The host welcomes him and sits him down on the couch in front of the audience. The audience just stares at him weirdly. The host tells them, "He doesn't bite, really, relax." The host then asks Michael to introduce himself to the audience and tell them where he's from because his face looks familiar. When the host learns Michael is from Ohio, he asks, "What cursed fate brought you all this way to come on this show that basically no one watches?" Michael starts speaking seriously, saying that all he ever wanted was to eat a warm breakfast with his family. But unfortunately, the only way he could get close to his daughter was to travel all this distance so she could watch him on TV while she ate her breakfast. He says it seems things got a little out of hand this time, but he's struggling and trying to do everything he can to get closer to his daughter and make her proud of him as a father. Michael tells the host that his wife, Patricia, really loves this show. The host laughs and says, "Well, your wife must have good taste then." While they're talking, Sylvia calls out to him and brings him back to the Press Your Luck set. It seems someone from the show asked her to do this and bring Michael back, so Sylvia does it. When Michael enters the studio, he finds the audience going wild, all chanting in one voice, "We want Michael! We want Michael!" The moment they see he's back, they erupt in joy, clapping and cheering at the top of their lungs like he's a national hero. And behind the screens and cameras, Chuck arrives to see Kaufman. Bill tries to set the stage, preparing to throw Chuck to the wolves, hand him over to Kaufman, and apologizes to him. But they're interrupted by one of their colleagues named Whiteman, who tells them, "This guy's popularity is through the roof. The audience loves him," meaning Michael, "and this episode must continue with him no matter what." Whiteman tries to make them see the situation from the viewer's perspective, not the rule book, and to play this smart. Whiteman explains to them that right now, people at home are mesmerized by Michael. Furthermore, the episodes featuring Michael are getting historic ratings, numbers the show hasn't seen since it first aired. For him, this will be a massive boost in advertising, money, and fame. If they decide to stop Michael suddenly without a clear reason for the viewers, the audience will say, "Hey, why did you stop him?" And rumors will start and a lot of unnecessary gossip about the show will spread. In other words, Bill realizes he only has two options. Either he reports Michael and loses the show, the fame, and his job, and just braces himself for the wave of scandals that will be spread about him and his program, and of course, people never stop talking. Or the second solution, he bites the bullet, shuts up, and lets Michael keep playing, and he takes the credit for this season being the most successful season in history. At that moment, Bill, Whiteman, and Kaufman all agree to let Michael continue, so the audience will love him even more. Based on this, the show will gain viewers and money in astronomical numbers. They'll be able to offset any losses and basically swim in money themselves. But the one person who is furious about this is Chuck, because he realizes that Bill was trying to throw him under the bus with Kaufman, lying to him and making him think Chuck was the one who chose Michael.
Chuck decides to get revenge. When he looks at the phone, his eyes gleam and an idea pops into his head. He'll call the last number dialed from the phone Michael was using, and he finds out the owner of that phone is named Lyle. He hears Lyle yelling at Patricia, and Chuck understands that Patricia, Michael's wife, is living with Lyle, and that this happened after Patricia's relationship with Michael started to deteriorate. We cut back to Michael, who is winning $100,000 in one go. The host tells him that this amount isn't just a record for their show, but that no one has ever won that much. During this, Michael gets an on-air phone call. The show had called Michael's wife live on the air without even asking him. The host assumes the call will be romantic and that Patricia will tell Michael how proud she is of him because Michael had led them to believe how much he loved his wife and saw her as the most beautiful woman in the world. So the host just expected, naturally, that their relationship was good. But the shocker, Patricia tears into him in front of everyone. She tells him she wants a normal man, not a man who goes on television. Michael is humiliated in front of everyone. He gets upset and so angry that he decides to quit the show and walk out.
Bill and all the show's producers feel they are in deep trouble because if Michael withdraws, they'll lose all the hype they were counting on. So Bill decides to talk to Michael himself. He explains to him that if he leaves the show now, he won't get a single dollar from them. He will have wasted all this time for nothing. Bill tells him, look, it's true you're a cheater and you're weird and annoying, but right now you've become the star that everyone is waiting to see. Michael thinks about Bill's words and decides to go back, but strangely, he passes his turn to Ed, the contestant next to him. Everyone is stunned, and Bill gets furious because they supposedly just had an agreement. But Ed and Jenny pass the turn right back to him, so he has to play, and so he doesn't ruin everything. In another location, we see a little girl watching television with her mother. We realize this is Susie, Michael's daughter, and her mother, Patricia. Lyle takes Susie to school, and it's clear he's a very aggressive person with a super short fuse, angry for any reason or no reason at all. He turns off the TV on them, but when he and Susie leave, Patricia turns the TV back on and just keeps watching Michael, gazing at him with a tearful smile. It's obvious she still loves him, and the film ends.